Dax Cullen had flown through pirate lanes, smuggler corridors, and asteroid graveyards. He had transported diplomats who lied, mercenaries who cheated, and traders who smelled like expired fuel. But nothing had prepared him for the silent armored woman sitting across from him. She had not moved for 3 hours. Not once. The cabin of the Farwind courier hummed softly as violet nebula light spilled through the viewport. The glow reflected off her scratched armor, highlighting dents, old weld marks, and a hinge that squeaked every time the ship vibrated. Dax leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "All right," he said casually. "I respect mystery. I do. But this level of silence. It feels personal." No response. He squinted at her visor. He could barely see inside. Just a faint reflection of cabin lights. Maybe a glimpse of pale skin. A strand of braided blonde hair. And, were those long ears? No. Lack of sleep. Definitely lack of sleep. He cleared his throat. "So, important question. Did you build that armor from scrap? Because if so, I respect the dedication. It looks like it survived at least 4 wars and a kitchen accident." Silence. The nebula outside shimmered like a living ocean. The ship vibrated gently. The hinge squeaked. He pointed at it. "That sound. That's either dramatic effect or a cry for help." Nothing. Dax sighed. He had transported criminals who talked too much. He had transported nobles who complained constantly. He had transported monks who whispered blessings to the engine core. But this woman. She radiated silence like gravity. 5 hours into the journey, he began to feel judged. Not loudly judged. Quietly judged. The worst kind. The ship jolted suddenly as turbulence hit. Dax grabbed his seat. Whoa! That one had commitment. The armored woman did not move. Not even a flinch. He stared at her. "If we crash," he muttered, "I'm hiding behind you. That armor looks older than my bloodline." Still nothing. Then, click. Her helmet turned slightly. Just a fraction. But it was enough. Enough for Dax to feel it. She had heard every word. And chosen silence. He swallowed. "Ah. So you are awake." She turned away again. He let out a shaky breath. This was worse than yelling. Outside, the nebula grew thicker. Static brushed against the ship's hull. The console blinked with minor warnings. Then the proximity alarm flashed red. Dax straightened. That's new. Multiple ships appeared on the scanner. Unmarked. Fast. Closing in. "Oh, come on," he whispered. "Of course. Nebula pirates. Because today wasn't exciting enough." The ship shook violently as docking clamps latched onto the hull. Boots thundered in the corridor outside. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Boarding detected. All passengers remain." The message cut off. Dax reached under his seat and grabbed his emergency blaster. It was small. Very small. He looked at the armored woman. "Well," he said nervously, "this feels like your moment." For the first time since boarding. She stood. The air changed. Not physically. Emotionally. The cramped cabin suddenly felt too small for her presence. Metal groaned as she reached to her chest. One clasp. Click. She removed the rusted chest plate and dropped it. It hit the floor with heavy force. Underneath was not old armor. It was sleek. Dark. Alive. Lines of soft blue light flowed across it like moving constellations. Dax blinked. "That," he whispered, "is not museum material." She removed another plate. Then another. The ancient shell fell away piece by piece. Under it stood something powerful. Her helmet came off last. Blonde hair, tightly braided, fell over her shoulder. Her skin glowed faintly with pale blue sigils. And her ears. Long. Elegant. Unmistakable. Dax stared. "Oh," he said softly. "You're important." The cabin door exploded inward. 3 pirates rushed in, weapons raised. They froze when they saw her. She moved first. Too fast to follow. One pirate hit the wall. Another lost his weapon before he understood what happened. The third tried to fire. A flash of blue energy flared from her forearm. The shot dissolved against a shield. She stepped forward. One precise strike. Silence. The pirates fell. Dax slowly lowered his tiny blaster. I fired emotionally, he said weakly. For support. More pirates charged down the corridor. She stepped past the broken doorway. Every movement was calm. Controlled. No wasted motion. She flowed through the narrow hall like gravity obeyed her. Dax followed, staying safely behind. Just so you know, he whispered. I regret every joke. She did not respond. But her ear twitched slightly. On the bridge, pirates held the crew at gunpoint. The moment she entered, the room changed. Rifles fired. Her kinetic shield absorbed the shots in bright sparks. She advanced without fear. One by one, the pirates fell. Within seconds, the bridge was silent. Crew members stared in shock. Dax stared too. She turned toward him at last. Stay behind me, she said. Her voice was calm. Low. Strong. Dax blinked. You talk. She gave him a look that clearly meant, obviously. The crew rushed to regain control of the ship. Damage reports filled the air. The nebula interference had crippled communications. They were stranded. But alive. She stepped aside and leaned lightly against a console. The glow on her skin dimmed. For the first time, Dax saw exhaustion in her eyes. You wore the old armor to hide, he said carefully. Yes, she replied. Without it, I am never unseen. The crew whispered a title quietly. Princess. Commander. He stared at her. You're royal. Yes. He swallowed. I mocked royalty. Yes. Repeatedly. Yes. She did not look angry. Just tired. He rubbed his neck. For what it's worth. I didn't know. That is why it mattered, she said softly. He frowned slightly. You spoke to me without fear. Without protocol. That's because I lack survival instincts. A faint smile touched her lips. It was small. But real. Hours passed as the crew repaired systems. Rescue signals finally broke through the nebula interference. A Dominion cruiser was on its way. The bridge lights dimmed into emergency mode. Nebula light drifted through fractured glass like cosmic mist. Dax leaned beside her. So, Princess of Liara of the Astral Dominion. That sounds expensive. It is. He nodded thoughtfully. So when rescue arrives, you go back to palaces and strategy rooms and people bowing too much. Yes. And forget the annoying pilot. Her gaze rested on him steadily. I do not forget easily. That felt heavier than he expected. He looked down at his worn gloves. You wore that armor because it was your mother's. She looked surprised. Yes. You wanted to be someone else for a while. She nodded once. When I wear it, I am not a crown. I am simply a traveler. Dax understood that. He hid behind jokes. She hid behind rusted metal. Different masks. Same reason. Rescue alarms chimed softly. A cruiser had locked onto their location. The crew cheered quietly. Liara stood gracefully. Dax stood too. He wasn't sure why his chest felt tight. When the cruiser docks, she said, I will request your presence. He blinked. As what? A suspect. As a witness. He relaxed slightly. Okay. Witness is better than prisoner. And, she added, as someone who reminds me to speak freely. He stared at her. You want me. You treated me as a person before you knew my title. He laughed softly. I treated you like a squeaky museum exhibit. You treated me honestly. That hit deeper than he expected. The cruiser's massive shape appeared through the viewport. Dominion symbols glowed against the nebula. Powerful. Commanding. Liara extended her hand. Walk with me, Dax Cullen. He hesitated only a second. Then he took it. Her grip was steady. Warm. Not distant anymore. The airlock doors began cycling. Outside waited soldiers, officials, expectations, responsibility. But inside that damaged bridge, something had changed. Dax was still just a pilot. Still sarcastic. Still reckless. But he had stayed. He had not run. And she had seen that. As the airlock opened and bright cruiser lights flooded the room, Dax realized something surprising. This was not the end of his journey. It was the beginning. The princess who hid in rust had stepped into light. And she had asked him to walk beside her. Not as a servant. Not as a guard. But as a reminder that beneath armor and crowns, they were both simply people trying to breathe in a very loud galaxy. And for the first time in his life, Dax Cullen stepped forward into the unknown. Without hiding behind a joke. The Dominion cruiser was nothing like the Farwind courier. It did not hum. It did not rattle. It did not squeak. It moved through space like it owned it. Dax Cullen stood near the observation deck window as the massive ship entered warp, violet nebula fading behind them. The hull shimmered with silver and blue energy lines, clean and flawless. Armed escorts surrounded them like protective wolves. He adjusted his worn jacket and tried not to look poor. Princess Liara stood beside him in full royal armor. Not the rusted one. Not the hidden one. This armor was bright. White and silver. Elegant. Powerful. Every soldier who passed lowered their head slightly. Dax noticed something important. She stood taller now. Colder. The softness from the bridge of the Farwind courier was gone. He leaned slightly closer. "You look official." "I am," she replied calmly. "Right. Of course. Official. Serious. Important." She glanced at him briefly. "And you look uncomfortable." "I am," he answered. For the first time since boarding the cruiser, her lips twitched faintly. That small reaction gave him courage. The capital planet came into view hours later. Australis. The heart of the astral dominion. Dax pressed his hand against the glass. The world glowed with city lights that stretched across continents. Floating platforms hovered above oceans. Orbital rings shimmered like halos. "It looks expensive," he whispered. "It is," she replied again. The cruiser descended smoothly through golden clouds. Massive spires pierced the sky, each carved with ancient symbols. Ships moved in organized lanes, guided by invisible traffic control. When they landed, hundreds of royal guards waited in perfect formation. Dax swallowed. "I suddenly regret every life choice." Liara stepped forward first. The ramp lowered. Light flooded in. A tall figure in dark robes approached the base of the ramp. Silver hair. Sharp eyes. Authority in every step. "High Chancellor Vila," Liara said evenly. The man bowed slightly. "Princess Liara. You are not scheduled to return." "I rarely follow schedules." His eyes shifted to Dax. "And this?" Dax raised one hand weakly. "Hello. I'm the comic relief." Vila did not smile. Liara answered calmly. "He is Dax Cullen. Witness to the pirate attack." Vila's gaze sharpened. "A mercenary pilot." "Freelance transport specialist," Dax corrected quickly. Vila turned back to Liara. "The council awaits your report." "Then let them wait no longer." The palace of Australis was larger than Dax expected. White marble floors reflected starlight from massive crystal ceilings. Walls were lined with banners showing ancient battles and royal bloodlines. Every corridor echoed with quiet power. Dax felt small. Very small. He walked half a step behind Liara. Guards lined every hall. Officials whispered as they passed. She returned early. She fought pirates alone. Who is the human? That last whisper followed him like static. They entered the council chamber. It was circular. High seats formed a ring above the center floor. 12 council members. Old. Sharp. Watching. Liara stepped into the center. Dax stayed near the edge. High Chancellor Vila raised his hand. "Princess Liara," he began, "explain why a future queen travels alone through pirate territory disguised in obsolete armor." The chamber felt colder. Liara did not hesitate. I traveled without escort to avoid political visibility. I was attacked by Nebula pirates. I eliminated the threat. Murmurs spread. One counselor leaned forward. You were nearly captured. I was not. The correction was sharp. Another counselor spoke. The pirates knew your route. That word hung heavy. Knew. Liara's eyes hardened slightly. Yes. Vila folded his hands. Which suggests information was leaked. Silence. Dax shifted his weight. This felt larger than pirates. This felt planned. Vila's gaze moved to him. Pilot. Step forward. Dax blinked. Oh, that's me. He walked awkwardly into the center. State what you witnessed. Dax cleared his throat. Multiple pirate vessels approached within Nebula interference. They boarded quickly. They targeted bridge control first. And the princess? She did all the work, Dax said honestly. I mostly panicked with enthusiasm. A few council members exchanged looks. Vila's expression did not change. Did the pirates identify her? No, Dax said. Not until she removed the outer armor. A counselor narrowed her eyes. So the disguise worked. Yes. Vila leaned back slightly. Then the leak occurred before departure. Liara nodded once. The room grew tense. One of the council members, a thin older man with pale eyes, spoke slowly. The Dominion faces unrest along outer borders. Pirate factions grow bold. Enemies test our strength. Another added quietly, or someone inside weakens us. The words echoed. Dax felt it. Suspicion moving through the room like smoke. Vila stood. This matter will be investigated privately. Liara lifted her chin. I will lead it. A pause. You are the heir, Vila replied carefully. You should remain visible. Secure. I'm not fragile. That is not the concern. Dax could see it clearly now. Politics was more dangerous than pirates. Vila looked toward Dax again. This human has no place within internal investigation. Liara's voice lowered slightly. He does. The chamber stilled. Vila's eyes sharpened. Explain. He was present. He saw what others did not. He speaks without fear. Dax almost choked. I would describe it as lack of caution. Vila ignored him. You would involve an outsider in Dominion security. I would involve someone not bound by our internal loyalties. That struck the room hard. The meaning was clear. Trust no one. Vila studied Dax long and carefully. You understand the risk. Dax blinked. I don't even understand the furniture. A few counselors almost smiled. Vila finally nodded. Very well. The pilot remains under supervision. Dax exhaled quietly. He had not realized he was holding his breath. The meeting ended. Council members dispersed. Whispers filled the hallways again. Liara walked silently beside Dax. You just volunteered me for political danger, he said softly. Yes. Bold move. You stayed when others would run. He shrugged slightly. I panicked slowly. She stopped walking. He almost bumped into her. You see details others ignore, she said quietly. On the bridge, you noticed patterns. He thought back. The pirate approach. The speed. The timing. They intercepted at the exact moment Nebula interference peaked, he said slowly. Yes. Which means they knew the route and time precisely. Yes. And pirates aren't usually that organized. No. He swallowed. So someone powerful wants you removed. Her eyes did not move. Yes. A chill ran through him. Not fear. Clarity. Then we don't start with pirates, he said. We start with who benefits if you disappear. For the first time since returning to the capital, Liara looked impressed. That felt dangerous. They moved through quieter corridors now. Private sectors of the palace. Fewer guards. More shadows. Dax lowered his voice. Who gains power if you're gone? She answered calmly. The council would appoint a regent. Vila. He is most likely. Do you trust him? A pause. I trust his loyalty to the Dominion. That's not what I asked. She looked at him directly. No. That honesty hit harder than expected. They reached a balcony overlooking the capital city. Lights stretched endlessly below. Ships moved in perfect order. Beautiful. Controlled. Fragile. You left the capital alone, Dax said. Why? Her gaze drifted toward the horizon. Because every day here, I am watched. Measured. Directed. And in rusted armor. I was free. He understood. Too well. Freedom costs, he said quietly. Yes. Footsteps approached. A royal guard stopped a few meters away. Princess. Chancellor Vila requests private audience. Liara nodded. The guard left. Dax exhaled slowly. This is where politics becomes dramatic. She turned toward him. Stay here. I prefer not to. You will be safer. He gave a crooked smile. After pirates and council tension, I'm not sure that word means anything. Her eyes softened slightly. Then she left. Dax stood alone on the balcony. He watched the city. Thought about routes. Timing. Leaks. Pirates knew too much. And Vila had not seemed surprised enough. That bothered him. Very much. Minutes later. A soft metallic click sounded behind him. He turned slowly. A hooded figure stood near the archway. Silent. Still. Dax raised his hand slowly. Before this becomes dramatic, I would like to state I am not politically valuable. The figure stepped closer. A blade of thin blue light ignited. Not pirate tech. Royal tech. His heart pounded. You picked the wrong human, he said quietly. The assassin moved fast. Dax dodged sideways. The blade sliced through balcony railing. He grabbed a decorative pole and swung it wildly. The assassin blocked easily. Too skilled. This was not random. This was internal. The blade came again. Closer. Dax stumbled backward. No heroic music, he muttered. The assassin lunged. A flash of white and silver struck from the side. Liara. She moved like lightning. Her armor flared bright. The assassin retreated. Their blades clashed in sharp bursts of light. Dax crawled backward out of range. This was not like pirates. This opponent was trained. Equal. Liara twisted, disarmed, and slammed the assassin to the floor. The hood fell back. A palace guard. Royal insignia visible. Dax felt his stomach drop. Internal. The guard tried to speak. Then bit down hard. Foam at the mouth. Poison capsule. Gone. Silence fell heavy. Liara stood slowly. Her breathing steady. But her eyes. Colder than before. Dax stood carefully. Well, he said softly, that confirms it. Yes. Someone very close wants you gone. She looked at the lifeless guard. They move sooner than expected. He nodded slowly. Which means we move faster. She turned toward him. No more balcony waiting. Agreed. He stepped beside her. No jokes now. No sarcasm. Just clarity. Princess, he said quietly, this isn't just about survival anymore. No. It's about who controls the Dominion. Her gaze hardened. Yes. Sirens began echoing through the palace. Guards rushed toward the balcony. Too late. The assassin was already dead. But the message was clear. The capital of Silent Stars was not safe. And the enemy wore familiar faces. Dax looked at Liara as palace security surrounded them. You still want me involved? She did not hesitate. Yes. He gave a slow nod. All right then. The human pilot who joked too much. The princess who hid in rust. Now standing together at the center of something far larger than pirates. Far larger than politics. A storm was rising inside the Dominion. And this time, they would not wait quietly for it to strike.